Now, let's have a look at some basic data types in Python. A data type defines the type of data that a value or variable can hold. First, we will see some of the most common data types in Python. The int data type in Python represents integers. The float data type represents floating point numbers, which are essentially decimal numbers. The string data type is a sequence of characters enclosed in quotes. The boolean data type represents truth values, which can be either true or false. The none type represents the absence of a value or a null value. We will soon cover them in more detail. But before that, let me tell you that these are just the common data types. There are other data types in Python like list, tuple, dictionary, set, and so on, which we will cover later. Before we cover data types in more detail, let's see the type function in Python. Type is a built-in function in Python that is used to return the data type of a value or variable in the program. For example, if you take the type function and pass an integer to it, the output will show that the provided value is an int. In reality, to see the output, you will have to wrap the type function output with a print function. However, for simplicity, we are not showing the print function here. Now, let's try some other types of values. If we provide a floating point value to the type function, the output will show that the provided value is a float. Similarly, if we provide a string to the type function, the output will show that the provided value is a string. In a similar fashion, we can provide any value or variable to the type function to see the corresponding data type of the provided value. We will come back to the type function again for a more detailed discussion. Now, let's look at the common data types in more detail, starting with int data type. As discussed earlier, the int data type in Python represents integer values. It can be positive integer values, negative integer values, or the integer 0. If we provide an integer to the type function, it would return int as the data type of the provided value. You can also try passing a negative integer to the type function, or even pass 0 to it, to observe that the return type is int. Let us now have a look at the float data type. As mentioned earlier, the float data type in Python represents floating point numbers. Like integers, there can be positive floating point numbers, negative floating point numbers, or the 0 floating point number. Please note that 0.0 is a floating point number and is different than the integer 0, which is a whole number. If we provide a floating point number to the type function, it would return float as the data type of the provided value. In a similar manner, you can provide a negative floating point number to the type function to observe that float is the corresponding returned type. As mentioned earlier, integer 0 is different from 0.0, which is a float number. Now, we will have a look at the string data type. The string data type written as str represents string values in Python. A string is a sequence of characters enclosed in quotes, which can be single quoted, double quoted, or triple quoted. If we provide any Python string to the type function, it would return str as the data type to show that it's a string. Now, we will discuss about them in a little more detail. The single quoted strings are strings that are enclosed in single quotes. Similarly, the double quoted strings are strings that are enclosed in double quotes. For most cases, single quoted strings and double quoted strings are sufficient. However, in Python, there is also triple quoted strings, which are strings enclosed in triple single quotes or triple double quotes. The triple quoted strings can be of single line. However, they are more commonly used for multi-line strings. Let's look at this with an example. Like a single or double quoted string, you can also pass a triple quoted string, and you can see the expected output hello world in this case. Now, imagine you want to insert a new line before the word world in the string. You can achieve this by inserting a new line character in a Python string. Note that /n is a special character used inside a string, which is used to represent new line, as shown in the output. The above approach of inserting new line character also works for triple quoted strings. However, for triple quoted strings, there is an even easier way. You can just make the string itself multi-line inside the triple quotes. Note that the same also holds true for triple quoted strings constructed using triple double quotes. Now we will have a look at the bool data type. The bool data type represents boolean values in Python. A boolean value can be either true or false. If we provide a boolean value to the type function, it would return bool as the data type of the provided value. In a similar manner, you can provide the other boolean value, true, to the type function to observe that bool is the corresponding returned type. Note that the Python syntax is case sensitive, meaning that the first letters of the boolean constants, true and false, must be capitalized. Therefore, in this example, if you used true with lowercase t, then Python will throw an error, as it would expect the boolean true to start with a capital T instead. Finally, let's have a look at the none type, which represents type of the none value in Python. None is a special object in Python which represents the absence of a value or a null value. None type is the built-in type in Python for the none object. Note that none is the only value in Python whose type is none type. As you can expect, if we provide the none object to the type function, it would return none type as the data type of the provided value.